Drew Tarver plays a struggling actor whose younger brother achieves internet stardom on the other two, and he's in the awards running for comedy lead actor. I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby here with Drew to ask him, have you ever had an audition as awkward as the ones your character has had on the show?
Oh God. I would say, there's there's definitely an awkwardness to everyone. I think at the same time as I was auditioning for this show, I think I had 2 days before gone in for a Triscuit commercial or something and I think I just had to not as directly humiliating, but also just eating a Triscuit with cheese on it and trying to smile and then being like, okay, could you seem like you like the Triscuit? And I'm like, well, this is a really old Triscuit that's been in here all day. There's so many. I'm trying to think of one that's particularly humiliating. I went in on a Tostitos one, and I had to pretend to be at a party enjoying Tostitos, and that was pretty bad. I love Tostitos, but fake partying. I just remember saying hey, could you hand me that pool noodle? As if that was that. They were I feel like they were probably Cut, have you ever been to a party? Do you ask for pool noodles? Is that your thing?
And you're like, yeah, that's what everyone does.
Yeah,
if you're at the times,
you're not having fun, okay?
You're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
So, as I said, your character on the show's name is Cary Dubeck.
Yes.
What about Cary resonated with you the most when you were first approached about this character?
I think it was just, it felt, obviously when you're trying to be an actor, it is very tough at times. And I just felt like they dealt with a lot of that. The script was hilarious. And also there was just some emotional depth to it that Chris Kelly and Sarah Schneider, who wrote the show, are unbelievable. And I'd seen Chris's movie, Other People, and they're just so good at putting comedy right next to real emotion, and just grounding it, having a scene be really funny and also devastating. And I think, a lot of the, queer storylines, really resonated with me. I'm bisexual in real life, so I've dealt with a lot of, stuff with that, internalized homophobia and trying to figure out, being an actor and not hiding yourself, but it just, a lot of all of that together to me just felt really real. Cary felt really real, and I just kind of responded to it when I read it.
One of the interesting things about Cary is he seems like he's okay by himself with his sexuality, but as soon as that comes into interacting with other people, there's all these other barriers and hurdles that come up. Is that something that you ever dealt with in your life and were able to bring to that?
Yeah, I think, it is one thing, figuring yourself out and then also living it. Living it actively out in the world, and it's not hypothetical anymore. It's I think Cary's dealing with, he's out of the closet and, has got over that hurdle, but there's a lot of things coming at him, living, just because you come out of the closet doesn't mean you're immediately just and I'm healthy, no scars here. So you're getting to see him struggle with that kind of actively, and it feels gross to watch him fall on his face and, you know, say at the bar, you know, thank you when someone says, I didn't know you were gay. And then that like tough reaction of like, wait, why did I say that? What is that? What is inside of me that made me say thank you? And you know, a lot of times you know, you don't know where it's coming from, and you're like, wait, why did I say that? You know, so I could definitely relate to, you know, trying to figure yourself out after, you know, you've come out of the closet is a very tough thing. And when I saw this role, I was like, oh, this feels really real. I haven't seen a ton of this on TV. That's just kind of like, but without getting too dramatic, you know. It was still so like dead on funny, and then also real, and it didn't feel like you were ignoring anything.
So, how did you come to be involved with this project? And I think you kind of touched on this, but what about it stood out to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I knew Chris and Sarah just from I came out of the improv and sketch world at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater here. Well, I took classes in New York, and then also I kind of did it mostly here in LA. And when somebody from your world gets on SNL or gets to write for SNL, it's kind of a small world, and you're just all like, oh my God, they did it, you know? Like, so you're watching them and you're trying to figure out what sketches they write, or you know, what behind the scenes at SNL is a very like magical, you know, cool thing. And you're doing sketch, and you know, I had like showcased for SNL or whatever, and I had met Chris backstage at UCB a few times, and I was always just when I saw other people, I we were talking about this earlier, but I had saw it and got emotional at the end of the movie, and then I just loved how the comedy was right next to, he could make me laugh and also just immediately sob. I was like, whoa, am I okay? Yeah, no, everybody else is doing this in this theater. And then I went outside, and then I got myself together, because I was like, don't let anybody see you cry. And then I got myself together, and then out in the lobby, I like started crying again. And like people were just kind of crying on the way to the after party. And I was like, this is a wild feeling, because we just saw a movie that was so funny and also so sad. So when I found out about this script, I was, of course, like, oh, I really want to see that and read that and try to be in that or audition for that. And I read it, and I was so obsessed with it. I recorded they weren't auditioning yet. And I was like, well, I asked my agent, I was like, can I just pick a few scenes and try to film them myself? Because I was auditioning for this other thing, and I was like, oh, what? And he was like, well, you know, you're auditioning for this other thing. This is a long, weird, confusing story. Basically, I texted Chris or Facebook messaged him, hey, I put a few scenes on tape for your show. I know you're not auditioning yet, but will you at least look at them? And he was in the middle of his biggest, I think it was like the last few episodes of his biggest season, or him and Sarah's biggest season at SNL as head writers. And I'm sure they were like, Jesus, what does Tarver want? Like sending us this tape? We're like writing the monologue. Jesus, leave us alone. But long story short, they saw the tape and they were like, we are coming to LA in a couple weeks. Will you come in then? And I just came in a few times and ended up getting the role. But I was definitely thirsty, as the kids say.
So I'm curious, you know, there's a lot of great moments that your characters had through this first season, but I'm wondering, what was the most challenging scene for you to perform?
Oh, let's see. Well, I mean, we did like some table reads, I guess a month or right before they went into pre-production for the season. And I didn't know all I had filmed was the pilot, and I was like, "Oh, I'm excited to see what the other episodes are." And we came in, I think, like a couple weeks in a row, and did table reads for the whole season. And I was like, "Oh, this is," because I'm just used to like putting on a wig backstage at UCB at like midnight and a mustache and just screaming at the audience. You know, there's not a ton of nuance to what I had been trained in or done up to that point. You just rifle through a prop closet and find a, sword and go out and bomb. So it's about, I was like, oh, there's some real acting in this, and I'd always wanted to do that, and I knew it was Chris and Sarah were gonna write real stuff. But I was definitely like kind of nervous, being like, oh no, can I do this? And I guess the "Call Me by Your Name" parody tag of that episode was a very, like, I had never tried to cry. Well, I tried to cry, and so they like emailed me. They were like, "Hey, we want to do this. We're doing this "Call Me by Your Name" thing on Monday morning." And I was like, yeah, I'm excited for it. And they're like, yeah, we want to try to do it for real. Like, try to Chalamet. And I was like, okay, all right, well, I'm going to try to Chalamet. So I kind of just over the weekend got sad, or just listened to sad music and would like walk around. And I lived in New York for 3 years, like 10 years ago. And my life then there were parts of my life then that felt very similar to Cary. Like, not that I wasn't struggling as hard in LA, I definitely was, but I was living in the same neighborhood as I was living in when I lived in New York. So I kind of walked around my old neighborhood, and I don't know if that's an acting technique, like watching the sunset and getting sad. Like, I don't, but then we came in Monday morning, and did it, and it was really fun. I was able to get there, which was, I mean, I think it was, Chris and Sarah, they're just so good at, I felt taken care of, by them, and also Andy DeYoung, who was directing. I just felt very safe. Is that gross? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
So the other great thing, of course, is your chemistry with Helena York, who plays your sister, Brooke.
Yes.
It's so good. How did you build your chemistry with her?
Well, I mean, I think she's just an unbelievable person. I don't know if you could. I'm not trying to take away from anything that we have, but if you can't meet Helena and have immediate chemistry with her, you might be a serial killer. Like, she could have chemistry with a serial killer. She's just unbelievably. She's just so good immediately. I remember when she auditioned, I had been cast in the show, and she was coming into audition, and Chris and Sarah had really liked her from High Maintenance. And so she came in, and we were doing the scene, and she was one of the only, was she like touched my head or my ear or something in the middle of the scene? And it sounds weird, and maybe it was weird, but it was like, oh yeah, siblings do maybe touch each other when they're sad, or like, there was a physicality to it. And I mean, but she was just, I think we got to hang out a little bit before, which was great. And she's just a real good, like, proper actor. Like, she's just so, she comes out of the Broadway world and just was very, coming out of the sketch world, I felt very, oh God, I'm about to say safe again. I felt very taken care of by her, because she's so good.
And the show has received a lot of got a lot of praise. I think because since it premiered, like when did it premiere? Like February or March?
Yeah, I think it was I think it was
January.
right at the end of January. Yeah.
Yeah, it premiered in January, and the reception was very, very strong for it.
Yeah.
Has anything about the way that it's been received surprised you?
I mean, yes, because this is kind of my first, definitely my first series, you know, and I knew what we were doing was cool and good, or I thought it was, and I was like, oh, this feels really good. I don't have a ton to compare it to, but this feels like people will like it, and it feels like a real thing. Is that weird? And so I guess but I still was very surprised when because people would be like, hey, yeah, this doesn't happen. You know, like this, enjoy this. And I'd be like, oh yeah, no, I am, this is unbelievable. But it was very nice to be like, yeah, I wasn't crazy. Like, people do like this. I thought this was good. It would have been a very weird thing to put it out and people would be like, this sucks. I would have been like, oh my gosh, I am way off. But yeah, it was really surprising to feel all that, you know, to read just really nice things about the show after you had worked, you know, so hard on it was really, really cool.
And the one last thing I wanted to ask is, so we are an awards site. You know, you could be. I think there's a good chance you could get nominated for an Emmy for comedy lead actor. If
Whoa.
you were to get nominated, you'd have to submit an episode
Right.
to the voting panel. Is there an episode that you think would be the best one for you to submit?
Let's see. I mean, I remember at the table read feeling very, I mean, I know I can't submit. I'm trying to think, because immediately I'm like, we have to submit the plane episode for Molly. She's unbelievable. Like, no, forget, I don't care about my stuff. Molly's plane episode. Because I remember that episode, reading it at the table read, and I had never felt, you know, because you're trying, it's a comedy, it's at Comedy Central, you know, we're at Comedy Central, we're doing a comedy show table read, and I'm on the other side of the table from her, looking at her, basically about to weep, and I'm like, stop, what are you doing? Like, you don't cry at these things, like, you're at Comedy Central. Like, you know, what are you doing? That episode is she's so good in that episode. I want her to get nominated for that episode. So let's see. For me, I mean, I love the Watch What Happens Live episode is so devastating. Like, just Cary is just, he's getting killed in that episode. Mm-hmm. I mean, God, I don't know. Do I submit it? How does this work?
Yeah, you would choose it. You would choose it.
Okay, all right. I should know this stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think I also I guess I think it's gross to talk about myself. I'm struggling. I guess the Chase's birthday party is a cool episode for Cary, because you get to see him at full gross Cary, you know, like fully lost himself, trying to be famous, almost trying to, like, he thinks he can sing at one point. He's got full tan hair, and Jeremy shows up and he blows it with Jeremy. You know, Daniel Isaac's unbelievable in the show, and just such a just seeing Cary blow it after all of this stuff with his roommate, and he finally stood up to his roommate, and then he's this creature in front of Jeremy. I think that, because that's kind of Cary's kind of, you know, straight manning all the other crazy people for the majority of the season. And that was a difficult thing for me to figure out. Like, what does it look like when Cary is lost himself, is fully unhinged, is buying into his brother's fame. So that was like an interesting thing to figure out how to play. How big do I go? I don't go full sketch, you still have to be a human being, but it's heightened, and then also kind of like bringing that character, dropping it when Jeremy breaks up with him was an interesting sort of arc.
Well, Drew, thanks so much for joining us. To all of your viewers, go to goderby.com right now and make your predictions so you can compete against our experts, editors, and other fans and prove if you are the smartest prognosticator in Hollywood. But before you go, click our subscribe button on this video so you're alerted to our great chats with top contenders. Thanks so much, Drew.
Thank you so much.